to our series on dealing with the devil. Today we're going to talk about the heart, the place of war. Understand there's war occurring in our heart, and that's the place where it is going to be engaged in our life. It's something that you are constantly battling and dealing with. And we're going to look at a situation on today, and we're going to personalize it, though it is speaking to a biographical figure, but yet is something that's relevant to each of us today, that we should not ignore and that we should not take for granted, because the enemy is doing all he can to get your heart. He's doing all he can to impact and influence your heart. And he will use any means at his disposal to get access. And so we need to learn how to deal with him, how to confront that, because there's so many things that are happening that cause us to get frustrated, disappointed, get weary, feel that it's hopeless, things are useless, and the Lord do not want us to be in that kind of state. He don't want us to stay in a continual mindset that I cannot make it, I can't survive, that there got to be something better than God. So we're going to look at the heart, the place of war, from John chapter 12, verse 1 through 6. And we're going to be looking at someone that we all are familiar with. At least we're familiar with his name. We may not know his entire story, but we are familiar with Judas. No, I don't think there's nobody that really want to be called a Judas, because of such a negative connotation that comes along with it. But we're going to understand the plight of Judas and why things played out the way they did with Judas. In John chapter 12, verse 1 through 6, it says this: Then Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he had raised from the dead. There they made him a supper, and Martha served, but Lazarus was one of them that sat at the table with him. Then took Mary a pound of ointment of spikenard, very costly, and anointed the feet of Jesus, and wiped his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the odor of the ointment. Then said one of his disciples, Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, which should betray him, why was not this ointment sold for 300 pence and given to the poor? This he said, not that he cared for the poor, but because he was a thief, and had the bag, and bare what was put in the bag. This really highlights something that we do not notice prior to this about Judas, the one that was part of Christ's following, a disciple. This was someone that was special. And so what we need to understand about this is that Judas was given the opportunity and the responsibility to receive and dispense the money. He was a treasurer. He was Jesus' treasurer. He was the treasurer in the ministry of Jesus. His heart would decide how he would respond to the opportunity and carry out the responsibility. So we have here where the person that had the responsibility for managing the money that Jesus received was a thief. Think about that very carefully, y'all. Don't overlook it. We may point at Judas. We better be very careful how we consider what belongs to Jesus. We better think about it very, very carefully because he's given us responsibility and he's given us opportunity. And even though Jesus never says that he's a thief, it's the scripture that let us know that he's the thief. He don't tell the other disciples that Judas is stealing from the bag, y'all. He never does that. We're going to find out something about Judas and about why he was on the road that he was on, how he wound up in the destination that he wound up in. And we need to learn from this message. It's not just for us to examine Judas. It's for us to examine ourselves because what happened to Judas happens among us all the time. And it's not just about how we treat the money. It's about anything that God gives us. How we treat our responsibility. How we treat the work that God has given us. How we treat and utilize our time. How we treat and utilize our gift and our calling. How we treat the responsibility and the ministry that God, how we treat it. In Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, it says this, and I'm reading from God's Word translation. It says, guard your heart more than anything else, because the source of your life flows from it. I've come across people that can't forgive. They've been hurt too deep. And so they can't forgive. They can't let go. They store up in their heart the anger, hurt, disappointment. I've come across people, even personally, I've experienced where someone disappointed me so bad that it caused for me to get hard in my heart. And it took God years to break through that. There are experiences that we have when we are young that we don't even realize the magnitude of it. And many times it doesn't come out or expose itself until you're an adult. And things begin to happen in your life. And you're wondering, why in the world is this stuff happening? The way I act, the way I behave, why is it happening this way for me? And why am I dealing with this? And it goes back in many cases to your past, to some issues that you have held on into your heart. And it causes you to rebel against the wisdom of God of letting some things go. We have here a story about Judas and really his attitude and the choices and decisions that he made and how the devil took advantage of it. Because the devil is looking for your weakness. He's looking for the area where you are vulnerable. He's looking for a place of opening where he could do the same thing to us that he did to Judas. And if we're not careful, we will allow it. We will permit it. And the thing about it is, we won't even think that there's anything wrong with it. Because Judas never thought there was anything wrong with him stealing from Jesus. He never thought it. I mean, just think of that. This man was stealing from the Messiah. He was stealing from the Lord of glory. He was stealing. And he never thought about it. He never considered it. He never pondered what could be the consequences of me stealing from God. Now, you may say, well, no, Jesus didn't have no money. It says it right here. Where did Jesus get money from? I'm not going to go there, but if you want to find out where Jesus got money from, go to Luke chapter 8. And in Luke chapter 8, you'll find out that wherever Jesus went, the people gave him money. Read Luke chapter 8, verse 1 and 2, and you're going to find out that there were women that gave Jesus money. Now, they only mentioned the women, but there were men also. And everywhere he went, the people supported his ministry by giving. And it was so much so that he needed a treasurer, y'all. It wasn't pocket change. Though we may not consider because we don't talk much about Jesus receiving money, but he actually did. And also he dispensed money. But let me move on because evidently y'all don't want to hear about that.
We want to hear about money. Luke chapter 8. Tell us more about money.
I'm going to talk about, I'm going to do an entire series about money. Matter of fact, I did it last year, but I need to remind us. I don't try to focus on money because I don't want to fall into the trap that many have fallen into in our society, in our world, or particularly the churches and the preachers. And I would like people to give out a desire and an appreciation for what God have done for you, appreciation of the ministry, appreciation of the sacrifice and the things that the Lord have allowed and made available for you. And so, as adults, I would like us to understand about giving. So I don't get over here and just talk about money all the time, but I have to do it today because it highlights something. And I'm going to tell you, your money highlights something about you and God. Because this guy, understand, was next to Jesus. And he had an issue with money. Let me go on. The heart. The heart is the intellect as well as the affections and will. The heart is the source from where the principles of man's action are born. The heart is the seat of the emotions and passions. The heart is the center of man's moral, spiritual, and intellectual life. So when we're talking about the heart today, we're not talking about the organ that's in our body. He said, guard your heart. Guard the things that deal with your intellect, that deal with your affections, and that deal with your will. He said, you better protect it. You better watch over it because understand, out of your heart flows the issues of life, flows really the things that affect and impact your life. It flows. So if you have a corrupt heart, whatever flows out of your heart is going to corrupt your life. Your understanding, your insight, your perceptions. If your heart is not right, the way you think is not right. Let me move on. So it says, so he gives in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23, he gives a command, guard your heart. It is not a suggestion, it's a command. So we may consider it a suggestion, but I'm going to tell you, you don't guard your heart, you're going to find yourself hurt. How many of y'all know about that? How many of y'all experienced some hurt because you didn't guard your heart? You let anybody in there. You open yourself to anybody's conversation, anybody gossip, anybody craziness. Oh, come on, y'all. Just think about it. You allowed and you permitted people to come in that should not have been able to get access to you because you did not guard your heart. The word guard means to keep, to maintain, to protect. It is your responsibility. It's a command. There is no options. There's no alternatives. There are no excuses. I mean, it is a personal responsibility. That means no other being can take responsibility for a person's actions. So in essence, I cannot take responsibility for what happens in your heart. What you allow in your heart, I can't take responsibility for. Because it's your responsibility to guard your heart. Of all the stuff that I say, and y'all know I say a lot of stuff, right? You have to have the wisdom and the discernment to recognize what is good and what is bad, what is appropriate, what's inappropriate. And that is a dilemma that we have in our world today, while we're witnessing such a travesty with so many preachers falling. Because it hurts so many people, because people have just accepted and embraced because they've grown a confidence in a person. But maybe the way the person sounds, the charisma that they have, the ability to communicate, the talent that they have, and all of a sudden you embrace it. It sounds so good. And we just open ourselves up. I mean, when I was growing up, the church that I went to, there was a lot of what you call hooping. And hooping is where you speaking, and I mean, it's just filled with emotionalism. It's filled with passion. It's filled, now there's some people who can hoop and speak the word at the same time. But then there's other people who can't. They just they moan and groan and they, say something. You wonder what in the world they're saying, but it sounds good. And some of them is empty. And their motive is to excite. Their motive is to move you. Their motive is to stir your feelings up and your emotions up. Okay, the message is coming from here, y'all. To guard is an exercise of discipline and accountability. So when you're guarding your heart, you are showing discipline. Discipline, where you are examining, you are assessing, you are investigating what should be allowed into my heart. You're not lazy about it. You're not complacent. You're not treating it as if it's trivial. In essence, you treasure your heart. You treasure your life. So therefore, I'm gonna tell you, when we first started the church. Not when we first started. We had moved to another area, and I wanted, to see the church built up on prayer, built up on people believing in God and holding on to God. And so I called for prayer. I called for prayer every night. Oh my God, we was in a new building, and our rent had went up like crazy from what we had prayed. Matter of fact, our rent went from $500 a month to $2,000 a month. And I said, okay, y'all, now I don't want to do it the way that I, raised money for the church that I grew up in. The way the church did, where we had services just to raise money for the church. So we had, you had, like I said, bake sale, or you had, this, all that kind of stuff. So trying to raise money for the church. And I must understand, and we must understand, back in the time of the Great Depression, time of the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and 60s, when our people did not make much money, they had to do some other things to try to raise money. Those that were, on the lower end of the economic scale. But nowadays, the church should operate based on people willingly giving and sharing as God has blessed them. And God move upon them as they understand the responsibility and the work in the spreading the gospel message. So you have to share discipline, because there are times when I've been to church, and there's times I've responded where someone had preached such a message and then they make an appeal for an offering. And I gave out of emotion, not out of wisdom. So I didn't protect my heart at that time. So therefore I responded emotionally. And there's times that we do that. There's times that, and so let me get back to the story about the church. And so I'm praying, and then people not coming to the church. I said, God, what is going on here? It's calling prayer, people not. And I'm getting angry and upset with the people, and I'm saying, Lord, wait a minute. If I'm making a call. I'm trying to do things right. I'm trying to honor your word. But yet the people are not responding. Lord, get them. No, you have to understand that your feelings will get hurt, y'all. You try to do something, and you're trying to do your best for people, and there is no reciprocation. There is no demonstration of, oh, Pastor, we're with you. We're on board. You get your feelings hurt. But God had to deal with me about that. And I'm so glad I'm down there praying. And God said, don't bother those people. They're my people. You do what you're called to do. And that helped me so much. Kept me from a bitter heart. Kept me from a hard heart. Kept me from a stony heart. Kept me from hating people, y'all. Kept me from getting behind the pulpit and lashing out at people. And that's why you have to guard your heart, because there are people who have gone through some painful situations. And when they're given an opportunity to get in the mic, you can still have the essence of that hurt and that pain in their message. If not careful, people pick up on it, and some people adapt it. Let me go on, y'all. Protecting the heart. Protecting the heart is important, because the heart breathes life into your thoughts. So when you receive a thought, you have a decision whether you are going to embrace that thought, or you're going to abort that thought and send it away. If you decide to embrace that thought, you give life to that thought. And that's why you got to be very careful about the thoughts you have, because the thoughts that you have don't all come from a good place. Understand that the enemy, once again, we said a couple of weeks ago, the enemy is the prince and the power of the air. And he uses thoughts and ideas and situations to penetrate and to bombard your mind, to disrupt your life, to destroy you, and you're unaware of it. You hold on to stuff that is poison, but you're holding on to it, not realizing you're killing yourself. But when you get a good thought, hold on to that thought, and you breathe life into that. Life about your healing, about your deliverance, about your salvation, about the love of God for you, about the care of God. Matter of fact, as we were singing this song, open the eyes of my heart, I want to see you. Oh, yeah, God said, you can see me if you look good. You look right. Your heart is pure, because the Bible let us know. It says, blessed are those who are pure in heart, for they shall see God. Oh, man. Let me move on, y'all. Things are changing. I feel something going on. The heart determines motivations of our actions. So the heart is where there is things that are in your heart that determine why you do what you do. So you actually could be doing something good, but with the wrong motivation. The heart discerns what influences our choice. That means things that impact our decisions. So your heart decides what you're going to allow to affect your life. What you're going to allow to order your steps, direct your way. Your heart is going to make that decision. As you are presented with options, presented with opportunities and situations and circumstances in your life, your heart is going to decide what you're going to do. Let me move on here. So let's look at Jesus' warning about the heart. It says, behavior in life reveals the condition of your heart. In Matthew chapter 15, verse 18 to 19, it says this. But those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart. Whatever comes out your mouth is coming forth from your heart. And they defile the man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witness, blasphemies. And that's only just a small number of the things that come from our heart. But when those things are welling up and coming out of our heart, it's saying that you're defiled. It's an indication of being defiled. There's something I've been pondering over the last couple of months, and it's about our communicating. Because I've seen and witnessed where children as young as 3 and 4 years old use such vulgar language. And not only that, where I've gone online and I wanted, and I come across a video where it has information that may be helpful to me, interesting to me. And they begin very, very good with the information. They begin very insightful, things that really spike my insight and understanding and desire. And then all of a sudden they start throwing in vulgar language. Have y'all noticed that trend? Where the editing is not as strict as it was. Now the permitting of and the acceptance and the validating of vulgar, foul language is becoming commonplace in our society. And because it's so widespread now, it don't even seem to faze people what's going on. But as you witness the disintegration of our culture, it started with the language. It starts with the language. You want to see someone disintegrate in their action, their behavior, watch their language. Let me go on here. Defile means to pollute, to make unclean. Things that we think that, something that don't bother me. It's amazing how what we diminish or we treat as insignificant, what a major part it plays in our life. I have an infection in my finger. I have an infection. Now, the thing about it is I was pulling a hangnail, and I didn't notice that something dirty got into it. And a couple of days go by, all of a sudden I noticed that my finger is swelling. And then, it started throbbing a little bit. So I go online and I call the video doctor. Video doctor. And so my doctor, as I showed it to her and stuff like that, she said, okay, you could cut it. I said, no, or I said, whoa, let me stop there. She said, or you could, you get some Epsom salt and you soak it in Epsom salt and warm water, and I will send you an antibiotic. So you take the antibiotic along. So rather than cut myself, I decided to take what I consider the easier, though it's not the quicker way, of dealing with the infection. There's an infection that's happening in our hearts and in our life, in our churches, amongst the people of God, an infection. That is if I would have not addressed this infection, you know what it would do? it would wind up going to my heart and create heart problems.